So we added one provider, our products provider, which we use in the products grid in the end. We use it there because we're setting up a subscription, and that subscription or that listener here with provider off works because we're providing our products object, which manages our list of products here with change notifier provider. Now I want to make sure that we can mark products as favorites. Now, if we have a look at the product model, which is not yet usable by a provider because we're not implementing with change notifier, which means we couldn't trigger our listeners from inside it. This model has the favorite boolean here, and it's also not a final boolean, so we could change that. Now, I think it would be pretty neat if the products we had here in our providers package, which do use this product model, could use that product model such that if we change the favorite status of a product, we automatically notify all places in the app that require a single product and are interested. You always have to specify that you are interested with the help of provider off, so that the widgets that depend on a single product and are interested are rebuilt whenever that single product changes, which in our case here means whenever the isFavorite status changes, because that's the only thing which can change. Now, therefore, I'll move product here over into providers. Alternatively, we could now both rename to models if we wanted to, so rename that folder to models. But I'll simply move the product Dart file over into providers and add with change notifier here as well, which is available also thanks to the Foundation Dart import. So you can use either the Foundation Dart import or the Material Dart import. Now here in the products Dart file, I'm referring to that product, so to that single product Dart file, and it's now in the same folder, so the import path should change to /product Dart. With that, I'm still treating products here, but these products now actually can notify listeners when they changed. Now, what would be a place where I'm interested in a changing product? Now, you might think that would be the product detail page, but that's actually not the case. There, I load a single product based on the ID, which I got, and thereafter, I don't really care whether that changes or not. I'm not displaying the favorite status on this screen, and I also can't change it from on this screen. Well, right now this screen is pretty empty, to be honest. We'll add more, but we'll not add anything that would allow us to change the favorite status on the screen. So the product detail screen here is not really a place where I want to reactively listen to changes in a single product. The product item Dart file is a different file. There, the product item widget, which is that grid tile we're creating, there I do have this button which represents the favorite status of a product here. And I actually want to switch that icon based on whether this product already is a favorite or not. So therefore here, of course, I need product data and I need specific data about whether this product now is a favorite or not. So I'm interested in hearing about changes in that product. What does this mean for us? It means that here I want to set up a listener to a single product, and that's now important, to a single product, not to all products, but to my single product here. In that product class, we also need a way of manipulating this boolean here in a way that also allows us to call notify listeners. And of course, what else is missing? We have a listener, we have a class. We need to set up a provider. What we're doing in main Dart here for products, we also need to do that for all our single products. Now let's start by setting up a provider. In the products grid widget, I'm listening to all my products. And then for every product we have, we're creating a product item here in the end, a tile in our grid. So in the end, it's here where I need to provide my product object based on the product class. Now in the main Dart file, we're doing that here right at the top so that the entire app can in the end listen to changes in products because we need products in different places. Now my single product here is actually really only needed in every product item list tile. So therefore here where I get all my products, I want to set up a new provider here above my product item so that inside of the product item, we can then listen to changes in that product. And since this builder here runs for every product in our products list, that's perfect because then we can set up different providers for our different product objects. Because for products, we really only have one object for the entire app, defined here in main Dart. For the single product, so for the individual product items, that's a bit different. We have multiple products there, multiple product items, so we can't set up a single provider. We need multiple providers, one for each product. Now, we're not setting up the provider here inside of the products class because that won't really work. Instead, we have to do that in our widget tree, but that's no problem. Because here, we have access to all our products, to the product items stored in the products class. And therefore here we can set up a new change notifier provider, just as we did it in the main Dart file. This is what I'm now returning in my item builder. This takes a child, and the child still is the product item here in the end, so we can still keep that code. But now I also want to set up a builder where I build my product object. Now the thing, of course, here is I already have my product objects, right? They're built here. Here I instantiate my product objects. I do this inside of the products class. So I don't want to reinstantiate product objects now. I don't want to build a new product object. But that's no problem. In our builder here, where I get a new context passed in automatically, where I simply have to return the value which I want to provide, I can simply return products I. This will return a single product item as it's stored in the products class, and it will do this multiple times because it's inside of the item builder for all the products I have. Now, since I'm providing a single product here, that also means we could, but we don't have to, receive our product data as arguments here in product item. Instead, here I'm not passing anything, because inside of product item, we could now get rid of all of that, and it wouldn't have been a problem to receive this before, but now since I'm interested in some dynamic value in a single product, it makes sense to use a provider here. So now in here, I can again use provider of, and for that, of course, you need to import the provider package here in the product item Dart file. So provider of, and now of product, because I'm interested in a single product. So let's import that provider now from the providers folder, there from the product Dart file, not products, but product. And it will now look for the nearest product which is provided, which simply happens here in the products grid, where I'm providing a product for this product's item. And a new product, a different product, is provided for every different product item which is rendered, so for every grid tile, because we're repeating this code for all the products. So this reruns for all the products we have, and hence we provide a brand new product for every product item, which of course is exactly what we want. We want to provide the correct product item or the correct product element for every product item widget. Now, there is actually one little problem you should be aware of when working with nested providers as we're doing it here. When you're using it in a list or in a grid, as we're doing it here, where Flutter removes items when they leave the screen and re-adds them when they re-enter the screen, in such situations, what actually happens is that the widget itself is reused by Flutter and just the data that's attached to it changes. So Flutter recycles the same widget. It doesn't destroy it and recreate it, which would work fine with our nested provider, but it recycles it, which means that we're actually attaching a provider to a widget here, which content changes over time and our provider won't pick this up. Therefore, the more items you have in your list, as soon as you have items that are not visible all the time, you will run into strange errors and bugs. But we'll fix this in the next lecture. This is a good first step, and this is an approach you can always use if you're not using a list or a grid. So in product item, I can now listen to that, pass in my context, of course, which is this important communication channel. And in here, I get my product or whatever you want to name it. So I have my product variable here. which won't change in this build run here, hence it's final. And then I can use product ID here to forward that. I can use product image URL here, and I can use product title down there. If we save that, you see this still renders as before, but now we're actually using a different pattern. The question, of course, is why are we using that pattern? Because I now, of course, want to make sure that when we tap that favorite button, we switch the favorite status of a single product. For that, in our product provider file up there in the providers folder, let's add a new method, which doesn't return anything, which I'll name toggle favorite status. And you can name this whatever you want. The idea here simply is that we invert the value of isFavorite. So if it's currently true, I want to set it to false. If it's set to false, I want to set it to true. So here I'll set isFavorite equal to not isFavorite. And the exclamation mark here simply inverts the value. So if it is true, then this here will return false, and therefore the new value will be false. If it was false, then this here will return true, and the new value is true. Now, again, to let all listeners know, we need to call notify listeners. So you could kind of say that's like set state in the provider package. You let listening widgets know that something changed and they should rebuild. It's the equivalent to set state and stateful widgets, which we now don't really need here when we're managing something with the provider package. Though you don't have to manage everything with the provider package, but I'll come back to this later. So we're notifying our listeners that this model changed, that we changed something in this object. We changed the favorite status. We can now use that favorite status in the product item. For one here, when we press this button, of course, I want to use my product, which I'm getting here with my listener, and call toggle favorite status, because that's one thing that should always happen. And I want to reflect the current favorite status here with the icon. So we can simply check product is favorite, and if it is true, then I want to show that favorite icon, which is that filled out heart, and otherwise I'll show favorite border, which is that heart where we got no filling. If we now save this and maybe do a full refresh here to make sure that this really gets used, you now see we have empty hearts everywhere, but if I tap it, it gets filled out, and again, then also toggle it off. And that's correctly reflected on my different items. And this happens and this works thanks to the provider pattern, where we are informed about changes here in product when we tap a heart. By the way, that's a nice use case or a nice place to show what happens if I set listen to false here. Now, for every product item that gets rendered in our grid, we only fetch the product data, but then we don't set up an ongoing listener. That means that when isFavorite changes here, it will still change behind the scenes, but notify listeners will not reach this build method in this widget because we opted out of updates. We're not listening. So this product here will not receive this updated isFavorite status, therefore build will not rerun, and therefore will not see the new icon. So if we now do a full hot refresh here, you see I can tap these icons as long as I want. Nothing changes there because we're not listening to updates. Of course, here that's not what we want, so I'll remove that, but it's important to understand what listen false does. So now with this changed, you see now this updates again.